Into the news hour, and let's get right onto it. Honorable Kazibwe Bashir Mbazira, the Kawempe South Member of Parliament, has notified the Speaker of Parliament on his intention to move a private member's bill to regulate borders, especially in Kampala. This follows various concerns about the conduct of border riders in Kampala, with government recently suggesting to have them banned from accessing the city centre. This comes at a time when a United Nations driver was beaten to death by a mob of border riders who accused him of knocking their colleague in an incident that happened at Mengo. More of this story. The Speaker, however, instructed that the Minister of Internal Affairs to come to Parliament to explain the conduct and manner in which one driver was lynched by crowdy border riders last week. While speaking to the press shortly after the sitting, Honorable Kazibwe Bashir expressed concern and desire to have border business well put to order to avoid uncertainties like it has been of late.
Given the nature of happenings in the country, as leaders we cannot just sit idly by and watch, as this sector that employs most people in the country lacks regulation, lacks management. So it's upon that background that I'm seeking the permission of the Speaker, which is giving me, to raise a motion that will see to it that the border industry is regulated. Not because we don't respect the works that are done and the efforts of these guys, the border, they are our brothers, they earn their living through the border industry, but you cannot imagine that this sector that employs over 1 million Ugandans has no leadership, has no structure. For instance, you cannot identify a border rider that works in Kawempe from that one that works in Bunamwaya Zana. So, as leadership, I think it's very important. Actually, it's going to even help sort out the Kawukumi in the border industry.
Honorable Pius Wakabi, the Bugaya County Member of Parliament, however, wants government to first put up alternative job opportunities for especially the youth who are the most beneficiaries of the business before a regulation is out forward.
Abantu bengi bakusurvivingira on border business. So tikyakuberekera ngu to restricting tutaka kozerewo some kind of ekizibu kyamani kiri unemployment nyeresera aba border every border without ataina mulimo agamba ale kamfuna kapikipiki ngende kupakasa. So I think as government takaizere with the regulations and the policies zira governing aba border bano tubanze turonde other area abana tubafunire tutemirimu through skilling tubaskilling bana bege other midimende barakora ko kubazira kuombeka kuvuga.
All right, following the situation where border riders, angry mob, I would say, put it in that way, an angry mob of border riders in Mengo actually attacked and killed a United Nations driver who was actually beaten to death for actually they accused him of knocking their colleague in an incident that was happening in Mengo, and a lot of situations happened during that time. Everything happened so quick. If you could actually see, only for the eyewitnesses who are there to only give you what was there on board. But of course, the police did say investigations are still ongoing, as key suspects were already arrested over there. You could definitely see that the incident also took place next to a police station around there. So the key suspects were arrested. Investigations are still moving on. If you look at the situation, the Speaker instructed that the Minister of Internal Affairs should come to Parliament to explain the conduct and manner in which one driver was lynched by a crowdy border riders. Because remember, the goal has always, I wouldn't want to call it a goal, but there has always been that drive by policymakers, let's say from Kampala City Council Authority, to see that they push out border riders out of the city to actually control the congestion that is taking place. While speaking during the press shortly, Honorable Kazibwe Bashir expressed concern and also his desire to have a border business well put to order to avoid uncertainties like it has been of late. And in this way, you could definitely see that the borders are employing a number of people out there. Not only the youth, look at even the parents, breadwinners, most probably. We've all seen it's one of those sectors that has actually been there and helpful to each one of us. And look at even those seated in the corporate offices. Once you have a meeting to catch up, and there's a lot of traffic jam, the borders are the people that you definitely run to. So you could see that safeguarding their business is a mandate, and it's actually going to help them develop their business. Honorable Party Member of Parliament, however, wants the government to first put up alternative job opportunities for those, more so the youth, who are the most beneficiaries of the business before a regulation is out forward, because this comes at a time when we're all in tough times. Remember, borders are now prohibited from carrying 2 passengers, but though some of them are already violating this situation because of circumstances that actually lead to the ongoing situation. Now, if you look at this, Honorable Kaziba Bashir notify the Speaker of Visitation to move a private member's bill. This is a private member's bill to regulate border riders, especially in Kampala. His move is to see that they stay in business in the city centers, because there is money here as well. But then there should be a bill that is supposed to regulate their activities. And we'll wait and see whether this bill will come to pass. Moving on, Dr. Driwari Alfred, the Assistant Commissioner, Vaccines and Immunization, has confirmed that Uganda has received 700,000 doses of COVID-19 Sinovac vaccines. Addressing the media, Driwari says these vaccines came from the Republic of China, the People's Republic of China. He says more COVID-19 vaccines will be coming in, as they are looking forward to vaccinate teachers to whom had started the Sinovac vaccines. Here is the story.
$150 million every year to make sure that children around the world are vaccinated, immunized, and saved from this crippling disease. Because of this, in 2020, Africa was declared polio-free. And in Uganda, we are very lucky that we no longer have the wild polio virus at all. And this small emerging case that has been identified by the Ministry of Health is just an import from other areas.
We have slowed down in the last 3 weeks on the rate of taking up vaccination. So as a ministry, we are appealing to the media to help us mobilize the public and remind them that we are not yet done. Reopening of schools is not a done deal yet. It is still conditioned on vaccination of teachers. So we need to get more and more teachers vaccinated. Right now we were expecting to be at least above 70%, but as you hear, we are at 63%, and the last 2 weeks progress has been very, very, very slow.
The vaccines touched ground at 3 a.m. and we will be receiving, the Honorable Minister will be receiving the vaccines in Entebbe. And more other vaccines for COVID-19 are also en route. We are expecting additional 400,000 doses, which will take our of Johnson & Johnson. And those are vaccines bought with the taxpayers' money, and it is now taking the total number to about 600,000 doses. So, ladies and gentlemen, today is my vaccine day. I'm very happy to give you the information that the vaccines we are going to use for COVID-19 are increasing. Let us all be agents for mobilization to ensure that we vaccinate all the vulnerables, to enable or to facilitate opening of society.
Okay. Situations happening in Uganda depending on the vaccines and the ongoing drive. We all know the drive that the ministry is actually pulling up, the Ministry of Health together with the government, and the media has always been here to sensitize different key stakeholders of all platforms and all sectors of the economy. Have always been calling on the people, and also in the private sector, to continue with the vaccination, because these, if you had to go back to the pre-pandemic level or the normal day of running life, is making sure that the population is vaccinated. Now look at this situation where all these vaccines are still coming into the country. Now we have 700,000 vaccines coming in from China, which means these are Sinovac vaccines. Remember, there are quite a big number of different types, not quite big numbers, but types of vaccines. We have the Pfizer, we have AstraZeneca, now there's the Sinovac, Pfizer, we have Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, all those types that are still coming through in the country to see that the population is vaccinated. We are on a drive to see, but maybe hopefully by the time we reach 2023 or 2025, all the population is vaccinated. And with that, there would be no excuses for anyone to come out and tell us, you see, I'm not vaccinated, I don't have a vaccine. Why aren't you vaccinated? This and this. So you could definitely see that is the same situation is happening. And if you're to focus more on the issue of vaccination, according to the various doctors in the country, you will definitely see that these vaccines that will actually be coming in as they're looking forward. Most of the batch has already come through, 700,000 vaccines that are coming to the country. We've seen various, I remember the Prime Minister did mention that by December this year, we shall have over 11 million vaccines already on board. We are looking at an idea of vaccinating a 4.8 million priority population. And if we have 11 million, so that means by the end of this year, 5 million, we shall be left with 6 million vaccines for the startup of next year, January. So you can see the drive is still ongoing. Even up to now, different centers are still out there for any one of you who is you don't even, I'm not supposed to even say if you're free, but it's high time for you. If you haven't actually got your jab, go out there, get the jab, get your first jab this month, get the other in November. Then, well, we can actually fight COVID and learn to live with it and head back to the pre-pandemic levels. And if you look at the situation here, these Sinovac vaccines will also be targeting the teachers of whom had got their Sinovac vaccines or their first jab of the Sinovac vaccines, and then they will first look at the teachers to get their second jab. Because by January, all the teaching staff and the non-teaching staff from all education sectors have to be vaccinated before their schools are reopened. And also the students above the age of 18 years have to be vaccinated. This is upon each one of us. All the parents out there, the vaccines are out there. So get them, go to the different areas that were aligned by the government to see that you get your children vaccinated, the students vaccinated. This will help us curb the coronavirus. Let's move on. On Sunday, the 21st of October, it will be, or the 24th of October rather, it will be the International Polio Day. Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the same day, the World Polio Day, with the theme, One Day, One Focus, Ending Polio. The theme of the day would be One Day, One Focus, Ending Polio. The Ministry of Health has partnered with the Rotary Club of Uganda to organize various events, including nationwide polio eradication campaigns and other immunized diseases and vaccinations against COVID-19. Dr. Khalid Abdelrahim, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative Coordinator, says funds are available to carry out with this campaign. Here is the story.
This is why at the protective measures, the country is really planning to conduct this nationwide campaign. Resources are available and the GPI partners are really committed, in fact, to support the governments and the country as well to achieve the highest quality of the campaign and also to reach all the eligible children.
Uganda is set to join the rest of the world to commemorate the World Polio Day and theme One Focus, Ending Polio. To mark the day, the Ministry of Health has partnered with Rotary to organize a nationwide polio eradication campaign as well as vaccination against COVID-19 pandemic. According to Dr. Khalid Abdelrahman, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative Coordinator, says funds are available to carry out the campaign, saying the funds came from a partnership from the Global Polio Eradication Initiative and the Ministry of Health.
The Global Polio Eradication Initiative comprises from all partners as well. They committed themselves to support countries to eradicate polio as well. So the funds is coming from the global partners, and also the country as well is contributing also to this fund. So the funds is coming from the Global Polio Eradication Initiative partners and also from Ministry of Health also as well. because it's a partnership between the global level and also the national level.
As an organization, Rotary International has given a gift to the world to eradicate polio worldwide. In 1988, together with partners, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative was started. And Rotary has every year injected $50 million, which has been matched 2-to-1 by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation at $100 million, making it a total of $150 million every year to make sure that children around the world are vaccinated, immunized, and saved from this crippling disease. Because of this, in 2020, Africa was declared polio-free. And in Uganda, we are very lucky that we no longer have the wild polio virus at all. And this small emerging case that has been identified by the Ministry of Health is just an import from other areas.
Rotary in Uganda will work with partners to immunize more children this year. The main celebrations will take place at Rotary Hospital in Mukono, at which the Minister of State for Primary Health Care will be the guest of honor.
In Rotary, Rotary is part of the global polio eradication program, and as Rotarians globally, we are about 1.2 million Rotarians. We come up and collect funds, and of which we put into a pool of the fund which supports different governments around the world to eradicate polio. So as Rotarians in Uganda, we are going to celebrate the World Polio Day on the 24th, which is Sunday, and we have done different activities in the country, and part of these activities largely focuses around immunization and awareness creation for parents to take
as well. So the country is now, the priority is the country is to go through a lot of criteria and readiness as well to use the MOPV. So for us here in Uganda, we are not going to use MOPV. We are using the new modified vaccine, which is genetically very stable and unlikely to cause any paralysis as well when it's used in a community with a very low routine immunization coverages and very low population immunity.
On 21st July 2021, Uganda confirmed polioviruses from 2 samples collected on the 1st of June 2021 from a sewage plant in Bugorobi and Lubigi, Kampala. According to the Minister of Health, this confirmation comes as a no surprise. There has been an ongoing outbreak of circulating vaccine-derived polio over the last 2 years in the African region. In response to this threat, Uganda heightened its surveillance system for the virus following the confirmation of cases and the virus in the neighboring countries.
And this press briefing is part of an initiative to create more awareness, but we have specific community campaigns that we are going to do in 2 communities. We have one which is happening in Mukono at the Rotary Hospital, and then we have another one which is happening in Imperial at St. Stephen Hospital. So these centers, we are going to be doing the actions, we are going to be immunizing young children, and this is done in partnership with the Ministry of Health. But at the same time, we are going to continue sensitizing the public on the importance of immunizing young children.
This is from the neighboring countries. In fact, this infection is related to my country, Sudan. So the virus had the potential to travel, and this is why the risk of importation from the neighboring countries is extremely very high. The way forward is very clear. The country now has a plan to conduct a nationwide campaign.
We are going to vaccinate 8.5 children, and the doses we have received are adequate to cover that population, and the plane touches ground by 1. After here, I have to move to receive the vaccines.
The last indigenous world poliovirus in Uganda was identified in 1997, and Uganda was certified free of all polioviruses in 2016. However, Uganda has been under threats of importation of all forms of polioviruses as seen in 2019 and 2010. Bedson Mumbere, Smart 24.
On 21st July 2021, Uganda confirmed polioviruses from 2 samples collected on the 1st of June 2021 on the sewage plant, one in the sewage plant in Bugolobi and the other in Lubigi. According to the Ministry of Health, this confirmation comes as no surprise as there has been an ongoing outbreak of circulating vaccine-derived polio over the last 2 years in the African region. In response to this threat, Uganda highlighted its surveillance system for the virus following confirmation of cases and the virus in the neighboring countries. The last indigenous wild polio virus in Uganda was identified in 1997, and Uganda was certified free of all polio virus in 2016. But however, Uganda has been under threats of importation of all forms of polio virus as seen between 2009 and 2010. 24th of October, Sunday, Uganda will join the rest of the world to commemorate the World Polio Day, a day where there will be campaigns to carry on with the awareness of polio virus as well as vaccination against COVID-19. So if you are there, you should actually take part in this particular event as well, because you are a Ugandan. If you're to look at the situation, Uganda will join the rest of the world. The day, according to the Ministry of Health, was actually to celebrate this day. The Ministry of Health had to partner with the Rotary to organize a nationwide polio eradication campaign as well as vaccination against COVID-19. According to Dr. Khalid Aderanahim, the Global Polio Eradication Initiative coordinator, says these funds are available to carry out the campaign, saying the funds came in from a partnership from the Global Polio Eradication Initiative and the Ministry of Health, Uganda. No scene to check out what is making headlines from the world of business. Kenya and Uganda set November as the month for sugar and milk trade talks. Let's look at this. The two neighboring countries are set to take another stab at easing trade tensions between them amid jitters on whether the two countries would find a lasting breakthrough. More of the details.
Officials from Kenya are scheduled to visit Uganda next month to verify claims that sugar and milk imported from landlocked neighbors originates from third-party countries, a claim Kampala denies. Livestock Principal Secretary Harry Chase have settled for a November date after the initial plan was hampered by the third wave of COVID-19 in Uganda. Uganda last week invited Kenya's agriculture and trade ministerial teams to Kampala for dialogue to clear the statement. Uganda High Commissioner to Kenya and the Seychelles Hassan Waswa Galiwango last week in Nairobi extended an invite to Kenya's delegation. Kenya and Uganda have in the past year been embroiled in serious feuds of several products, including sugar, milk, and poultry products. Only last month, Uganda protested a 79% cut on its scheduled sugar exports to Kenya. This was after the Sugar Directorate in Nairobi said that traders were only allowed to import 18,923 tons of sugar from Uganda, down from 90,000 tons that Kenya had earlier said would be shipped in. Kenya's Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina and her Ugandan counterpart had in April agreed that Uganda would export 90,000 tons of sugar to Kenya as soon as the verification mission on the country of origin was completed. A deal between two countries allowed Uganda to export surplus sugar into the country 3 years ago, but Nairobi delayed the implementation until late last year.
Kenya's Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina and her Ugandan counterpart had in April this year agreed that Uganda would export 90,000 tons of sugar to Kenya as soon as the verification mission on the country of origin was completed. Remember, as we were actually kick-starting off with the idea of exportation as well, remember Kenya actually brought back our beans, and according to the situation, they were not meeting up with the world standards. So now we hope this particular deal for sugar does come through. That is between milk and sugar trade talks that will actually happen come November, that is next month. So to look at the way they are going to mitigate the issues to actually bridge that gap between the two countries in terms of the economy and strengthening bilateral talks as well. Still with the international scene, however, in Kenya, the Cooperative Bank of Kenya plans to boost green financing A funding deal signed by the bank reflects increased demand for solar energy in the country, with energy costs a heavy burden for many small businesses. More of this story.
The Cooperative Bank of Kenya has signed a loan portfolio guarantee agreement with the African medium-sized enterprises with the aim of boosting finance for green projects. The bank says the $750 million deal will enable it to support more emerging green energy projects. The agreement reflects an increased demand for solar energy in Kenya. Solar costs have fallen by 80% since 2010. Between 2018 and 2019, the price of solar power fell by 13%. The country's 2019 population and housing census revealed that 19.3% of Kenyan homes used solar power. The bank's Director of Corporate and Institutional Banking, Jacqueline Waithaka, said the challenge that banks and other financiers face in the financing of solar energy regards the kind of securities that customers offer as collateral for credit. Solar panels and inverters, for instance, are not a preferred security because they cannot be easily liquidated in case of loan default. Co-op Bank's partnership with AGF has created an instrument that overcomes this challenge, thereby giving the bank considerable ability to finance solar energy programs effectively. Banks in Kenya are dire need of risk mitigating instruments to support their lending activities to SMEs. However, the aim is for economic growth without degrading the environment. According to AGF Group Director of Business Development, sustainability improves the quality of lives, protects the ecosystem, and preserves natural resources for future generations. The partnership with Core Bank reflects Kenyan commitment to increase financing of businesses in the green sector.
The bank's Director of Corporate and Institutional Banking, Jacqueline Waithaka, said the challenge that banks and other financiers or financing institutions are facing in the financing of solar energy regards the kind of securities that the customers offer as collateral for credit, solar panels and inverters. For instance, most of them are not preferred as security because they cannot be easily liquidated in case of a loan default. Coop Bank's partnership with AGF has created the Co-op Bank's partnership with AGF has created an instrument that overcomes this challenge, thereby giving the bank considerable ability to finance solar energy programs effectively. The banks in Kenya are in dire need of risk mitigation instruments to support their lending activity.